Shadows of the Veil. The city of Providence's reach had long been a place of silent power struggles. From its towering courtrooms to its hidden sanctuaries, secrets were currency, and justice was often a well-manicured illusion. At the center of this tangled web was Elias Laurent, a man who had spent years untangling conspiracies others dared not touch. A former investigative journalist turned spiritual analyst, Elias had learned that corruption didn't just exist in boardrooms or political chambers, it thrived in the unseen world as well. Dark forces cloaked their influence under legal paperwork, court rulings, and sudden, unexplained deaths. This time, however, Elias wasn't just investigating another political scandal, he was unraveling a spiritual war that had been brewing for decades. The call for justice. It started with a desperate phone call. Dr. Vivian Cross, a well-respected forensic psychologist, reached out to Elias in a hushed whisper. "They're trying to blind me, Elias," she said. "Not just in the legal sense, I mean. They're trying to seal my sight." Vivian had been working on a case involving Mason Holloway, a powerful district attorney whose sudden death had left behind a mess of legal disputes. Officially, Mason had died in a car accident, but whispers in the underground spiritual community suggested otherwise. Mason was about to expose something bigger than corruption, Vivian continued. He was about to reveal a coven embedded within the justice system itself. Judges, attorneys, high-ranking officials, all part of something much darker than politics. The Seraphim Circle, a name Elias had only encountered in cryptic archives and whispered folklore, had resurfaced. A system built on rituals. Elias started digging, and what he found shook him to his core. The Seraphim Circle wasn't just a secret society, it was a spiritual syndicate that manipulated fate through rituals, blood sacrifices, and stolen energy. They didn't just control the justice system through money or threats. They used occult practices to bind, blind, and manipulate outcomes. Court cases were not won through arguments. They were sealed in rituals before the gavel ever hit the bench. Election results were not swayed by voters. They were decided in sanctuaries drenched in candlelight and incantations. Even the lives of officials were not spared. If someone within the ranks became a threat, their fate was rewritten, sometimes through accidents, sometimes through something worse. Mason Holloway had tried to break the cycle, and he had paid the price. Sealed sight and divine justice. As Elias delved deeper, he realized that those who sought truth were systematically blinded. Spiritual attacks had been used to strip away the gifts of seers, intuitive thinkers, and righteous whistleblowers. Vivian was targeted because she was a natural empath. She could see the truth behind a person's words. Her reports exposed patterns others ignored. Another investigator, Isaiah Trent, was poisoned in May just as he was about to reveal financial records linking court officials to off-the-book ritual payments. Detective Aaron Keene, a hardened officer who had dared to question the deaths of key witnesses, was suddenly removed from his position under false accusations. Elias himself found his bank accounts locked, his communications tapped, and his dreams invaded by unsettling visions. Someone or something was trying to warn him to walk away. The ritual that sealed the fate. One night, Elias followed a lead to St. Augustine's Cathedral, an abandoned church rumored to house the inner circle's most guarded meetings. What he found was more than a conspiracy, it was an unholy pact. Inside, a sealed ledger sat on an altar. The pages were covered in sigils, names, and dates. At first, Elias didn't understand what he was looking at. But then he saw Mason Holloway's name next to a date that matched his death. Further down, Isaiah Trent. Further down still, Vivian Cross, her name circled in red, her fate undecided. Then Elias saw his own name. Not just his name, his fate had already been written. Eliminate before the full moon. Time was running out. The power play. Elias took the ledger, knowing it was his only bargaining chip. But by the time he reached Vivian's home, it was too late. Vivian lay motionless, her body unnaturally contorted. A crow sat outside the window, watching. The room smelled of burnt sage and something metallic. A message had been carved into her desk. Truth is not seen, it is erased. Elias knew what had happened. The Seraphim Circle had sealed her sight permanently. Her gifts had been stolen. Her life force had been drained to feed the system that silenced voices like hers. This wasn't just about power anymore. This was spiritual warfare, the collapse of the circle. But justice, true justice, doesn't come from men in robes or paper trails. It comes from divine intervention. Elias had the ledger, the single document that detailed every corrupt official, every sacrifice, every manipulated case. And he had one last play. He took it straight to the divine court. Not the justice system of men, but the cosmic balance itself. Through a spiritual ritual of reversal, he invoked the ancient law of justice, the scales that weigh every action. And the system crumbled. Over the next 72 hours, the following took place. 3 top judges were arrested for fraud and conspiracy. Several district attorneys in multiple states were exposed for manipulating evidence. Mason Holloway's case was reopened, revealing he had been murdered. A massive spiritual backlash hit the coven members. Visions of their own demise haunted them, their spells reversing in ways they couldn't escape. The Seraphim Circle came forward, revealing the coven's deepest secrets on live television. The system didn't just collapse, it devoured itself. Divine justice prevails. Elias knew that exposing a system built on darkness meant he had to move in the light. Some wounds would never heal. Vivian was gone. Mason was gone. Countless others had been sacrificed in silence, but their names would not be forgotten. The veil had been lifted, and the Seraphim Circle was no more. Elias packed his things, knowing his work wasn't done. There were other cities, other syndicates, other secret societies waiting in the shadows, but this was divine justice. No matter how well they hid, the light always finds a way. Final message: truth is not seen, it is revealed. Let this be a lesson to the world, and let every evil soul bow down to the one and only Creator. And those who manipulate fate will always face the weight of their own judgment. The war is never over, but the righteous will always rise.